Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Friday. How we doing? Thank God it's Friday. That's right. A weekend. I think I need it. What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday. Welcome back to the live stream. Welcome back to the morning prep. Margin, what's up, man? Mora, Aiden, Fade, NVIDIA 200. We hit it for a little bit there, NVIDIA. Tur, what's up, man? Andrew, Easy, G, Deb, Robert, Matt, Sid. What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? Welcome back. So today, first off, yesterday, man, one of those days where you just get it wrong. That was definitely my day yesterday. Just got a little bit too interested in that pullback long at those key levels, which, as I said, that was the shot I wanted to take. So I took my shots. It wasn't right. And that's all I can do. I mean, I gotta, as you got to look yourself in the mirror and own up to it, right? So yesterday just didn't have the right read. The wrong read coming into the day pretty much put me in a frozen position, right? I was just like, this is much different than I thought. And that's it. That's my day. I just didn't want to chase anything. I think I did really good not doing something that I wasn't prepared for. Right, so I wasn't really, I guess I was ill-prepared for the downside move, which I should not have been, and I'll talk about that and how clean it really was, and just wasn't on my A game. So yesterday pretty much did nothing besides take that NVIDIA swing trade loss, which was around a $1,700 loss, and missed just about every downside move across the board. So, that one's on me. I'll own up to that. It wasn't a good preparation, at least for my own personal trading. And, I'm sure many of you out there caught some nice downside because I saw it. You guys posted some nice wins, and there was some perfect retest rejection. So what we talk about played out beautifully. What we talk about in terms of the intraday retests and the rejections was awesome. Was I able to catch it? No. And so it was a tough day for me yesterday, just sort of watching things go and just missing everything. So that was a little bit tough. That's, just the FOMO speaking. But, hey, man, I've been here 1,000 times. I've missed major moves 1,000 times. And, the only way forward is to just lock back in and show back up, right? So today, some interesting stuff, hopefully some more action out there today. I mean, the good thing is the market is starting to heat up a little bit, which is nice. To the downside is also a great, money-making opportunity. So let's see what we get today. Let's see if we get some downside continuation. Right now, as I'm watching the ES on my charts, we're rejecting the 50 SMA. Really clean. So if that stays true today, could be a nice trade. There's definitely a target to the downside on the NASDAQ futures that I have. So let's see. If you had a tough day yesterday, if you were sort of thrown off by the downside, shake it off. If you caught it, beautiful. Let's lock in once again. That's all I can say, all right? That's really all I can say. Today, just going to stay unbiased. I definitely maybe had too much of a bias yesterday, which is something I typically don't do. I was just so, I got the pullback like I was been talking about. I've got the pullback that I wanted to get, and unfortunately, the pullback kept pulling back. So, yeah, just just one of those moments where you just get it wrong, and there's just nothing else to really say. Aqua has been, Aqua was money, chef. Aqua continues to be money to the downside. That's been a great call here on the stream about the Aqua downside and selling the shares and things feeling a little bit sketchy over there. So that's been great. Gonna definitely try to keep an eye on that. There's a huge low volume shelf below on Aqua. That's a really good opportunity. So A lot of opportunities if we do get some more downside continuation, especially on the SMH. I don't know if you guys remember, but we'll jump into the SMH. The SMH has a major low volume gap below still. I don't know if you guys remember that big blue gap that we've had on our charts. It's getting close again. So let's see what we can get. Let's see what we can get. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys for the coffee fund. Oh, message retracted. Someone donated to the coffee fund and then took it away. Golf nut. We all miss a short putt once in a while. Hey, I like that, golf nut. I like that saying right there. That's true. You know, I was definitely missing some short putts on last Saturday. I'll tell you that. I got a new putter, which I was all excited to use, and I sucked with it. I guess it's just a matter of like getting used to the putter. It was a gift card that I had for Christmas, and I finally used it, and I just couldn't even use the putter. It was so bad. So I guess you're right. All right, so we just got a nice little trap. Oh, let me live stream. So look at this daily 50 on the ES today, guys. This is gonna be the spot to watch without a doubt. We just got a really interesting little trap below that, and we are just sort of starting to find some daily 50 SMA action down here on the ES. So this is going to be very interesting. Today, let's go ahead and pull up the economic calendar. So the economic calendar today, we do have consumer sentiment inflation expectations at 10 o'clock. So let's be aware of that. 10 o'clock today, inflation expectations and consumer sentiment. That's just about it. Let's go ahead and jump into the chart. So let's start on the NASDAQ futures. All right, so let's just talk real quick, and I'm not going to, really think about yesterday too much because it's really just right for me to brush it off and move on. But let me just explain to you what happened yesterday, why the market went down. It is very explainable, and, it's something that's really clear when you look at the technicals, right? Sometimes in hindsight, you say, wow, yeah, that was pretty much perfect. So looking at this NASDAQ futures, you guys remember our NTZ, right? That was the no trade zone that we had right there. It was the NTZ lows right here, the NTZ highs. Now, we caught this rejection so good. I mean, this was my $25,000 day. Tuesday of this week, I made $25,000 on a pop and fade of this level at 25,888, right? Beautiful pop and fade, beautiful downside move. I mean, just perfect. Previous lows, the break and retest rejection, right? Previous lows, into rejections, break, retest, rejection. Perfect day, huge win, love it. Coming into yesterday, right, we got that big move off the daily 20, and for some reason, and I can't explain it. It's hard to explain sometimes. For some reason, I thought that was it, right? I said, hey, that's a beautiful daily 20 SMA hold. We have a higher low here in the pre-market, and I'm going to be looking to see if we can get that break and retest rejection to the upside. And I was so interested in that break and retest, that reclaim ripper upside, that I failed to even look for just the same trade that I took on Tuesday, right? So the trade yesterday was, again, just the same trade that happened on Tuesday. It was, once again, a break and retest rejection, right? So previous lows into highs, and this is just simply your structure right there, right? Beautiful. Structure 1 lows into structure 2 highs, and it's just that explainable. It's that easy to explain. And that's all it was. That is all it was. It was just another rejection at the same Tuesday and Wednesday high. So why I didn't look for that trade more intently, I guess, I don't know if that's a word, with more intent is what sort of frustrated me yesterday, right? Because it's right in front of my face. So that's going to happen to you at times as a trader. You're going to miss a layup, right? Yesterday was definitely another layup, and I was too interested in the break and retest back to the upside after pulling back to the daily 20, right? That's really it. That's how I would explain that day. So moving on, today you have the same type of read. So if we zoom out here on the NASDAQ futures, take a look at what's going on here. You are now failing back below these major previous all-time highs, right? Look at this failure in the pre-market today. It is perfect. So if we go to the 4-hour chart, we can see here on the 4-hour chart, we have previous highs, previous highs, right? And look at this failure that came in the pre-market. Now, here's the worst thing to do in a downside moving market, right? And I'm still going to be very protective of this because I don't want to now be biased to the downside, right? I don't want to be biased at all these days. You have to be very careful. So this really is the best short. It's the retest rejection of these highs, which has already happened here in the pre-market, right? 25,388. We go to the 5-minute chart. We can see right here in the pre-market and into the after hours last night, look at the failures at 25,888, right? This failure right here, that's your money move to the downside already. So that's perfect. Now, here's the problem. You got to be careful today, coming into the day, looking to short after that rejection has already happened, right? Because where are you trading down to? Well, we're trading down to these highs. We're trading down to these highs. We're trading down to these lows. We're trading down to these highs. And we're trading down to this low where this entire move originated off of, right? This big frothy upside move where we originated off of is where we are trading at pretty much right now in the pre-market. So, is that going to be a little bit of a bounce spot today? I would definitely put that into my game plan, right? That is definitely a potential bounce spot today. You've basically retraced the entire froth that started back on October 22nd, 23rd. So you have given back basically a week of upside. This is a week and this is a week, right? So over the last 2 weeks, you've pretty much gone nowhere. You went frothy to the upside. You came straight back to the downside. And, that's it. That's sort of just giving back the froth. So you're right back to where we started back on October 23rd. You might as well just erase the last 2 weeks of price action. It's basically pointless. You're right back to where you started. So now, with the market already down here in the pre-market about a 0.5%, I am definitely cautious shorting into these demand lows, right? Where would I want to look for the short? Well, it's the same thesis where we caught the beautiful short, on this day. We were down in the pre-market. We wanted to get a pop and fade, right? So where is the short today? For me, I'm going to be looking for a pop and then looking to see if this fades, right? Right around that daily 20. Do we pop? Do we fade? Is this my new short entry at these previous lows? That's going to be something I watch. I will be very cautious of shorting into these demand lows right here between 25,027 and 24,913. That is between these areas where you previously found some strong demand right here, right here, right here, and these previous low highs right here. So a little bit cautious there this morning, guys. I would be very cautious if this thing sort of overextends itself into that daily 50. There might be some of those, quick and aggressive pop moves off that demand zone, and which would really crush a 0 DTE put. So definitely a little bit dangerous down there. I would be cautious. The best short now would be to see a failure right here. If we could see nasty fails back under these all-time highs right here and right here, that would really solidify a downside look, right? If you can see a nice little pop and then a nasty failure here, that would really solidify that downside move. And that would be your next structure rejection, just like that, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Do I get it today? I don't know, but I'm going to be patient. That's one thing I know today. I'm going to be patient. Something that's very important for you guys to pay attention to, especially in your emotions, in your trading, and it's, it happens for your entire career. Trust me. I'm 12 years in. It still happens to me. If you have an off day, do not come into the next day looking to fire just to make back losses or based off of FOMO and emotion, right? So today, I do not want to fire aggressively because of my day yesterday. I need to make sure I sort of stabilize my emotions and my mindset. And so today, maybe a little bit hands off just to sort of close out the week. This is very important long term, right? Because you can make some really stupid decisions if you do some trading off of emotion after a poor day, right? Very important. Something to really think about today. So that's for me, right? I'm just talking my experience and hopefully me talking basically, truly authentic to you guys will help you in some sense in your trading career. So down in these lows, cautious of the demand holds, cautious of the late shorts, cautious of the shorting into a whole area, looking for the pop and looking to see if we can find new fades. The only way I look for upside today, there is only one singular way I look for upside, and that would have to be an insanely strong reclaim of the previous all-time highs and the daily 20 SMA. I would need to see a crazy strong bounce, a pullback, and then a nice consolidation and hold back above these lows. There is no long for me off these lows. It is too strong of a downside move right now. I don't want to be shorting lows and then getting dead cat bounced on the entire day. That's not interesting to me. The only place that dead cat bounce is no longer a dead cat bounce in my book would be if you reclaim the previous all-time highs and the daily 20. At that point, you would have a reason to look for an upside continuation move back towards the 25,888. Something that's possible, but we'll see what the intraday price action looks like, okay? All right, so that's my read right now. We shall see how this plays out today. S&P 500 futures. So right here, you guys can see we have moved lower into the daily 50 SMA. Let's zoom out to the hourly chart, and let's take a look at this zoomed out look. So here on the S&P 500, yesterday, a very explainable move. Once again, major lows, major lows, major lows, right? Triple bottom lows on the ES. This is where we made our money on Tuesday of this week, right? Just a perfect drop, pop, and fade. A perfect break, retest, rejection, right? That was money. Right off those triple bottom lows, we faded that 68.50, and that was on the dot money. So yesterday, it was the same thing, right? And, beyond me as to how I didn't really look for that trade yesterday. So you can see lows, 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 highs, highs, and yesterday, highs. Bam. Perfect. Perfect pivot, perfect structure, perfect structure lows into structure highs. Really clean stuff. So, nice downside move, breaks you down to the new lows, and now you're here down at the daily 50 SMA. Pretty damn clean. So if we zoom out on the 4-hour chart, we can see that at this point, I'm a little bit, this area is a little bit difficult for me on the ES because it's really sloppy from the past. These highs and these highs and these highs are sort of sloppy for me. But I can tell you one thing, that the daily 50 here will definitely put up somewhat of a fight. So anywhere between this 66.90 and around this 67.20, I think will put up a little bit of a fight. You can see that is also the low right here from where this whole upside move started. That's basically where we're trading at right now. Now, the pop and fade is a little bit tricky for me on the ES today. Why? I don't know exactly where that spot is yet. I'm looking at these highs right here, around that 67.90. I'm looking at these highs right here at 67.90. That looks like a very potential fade spot. But then I also look at these highs over here at the previous all-time high, around 68.12. So I don't know exactly which level. Is it going to be here or is it going to be here? On the NASDAQ, it's much cleaner, right? The NASDAQ's clean as can be. It's the exact high. See this? And this, that's pretty damn perfect. You have a perfect double top high at 25,388. On the ES, you have a little bit of a, divergence. You have a little bit of a not an equal high. This is a not an equal high here on the ES. So for me, the way I would look at this and to protect myself, I'm probably going to be putting this entire zone as a red zone for myself because it could be either one of those highs right here on the ES. It could be 68.12. It could be 67.90. It's anywhere between this rejection and these rejections here, right? So little bit tricky there, right? It's, to me, somewhere within this 68.12 to 67.90 is where I would want to see the ES pop and then start to reject. Yeah, 666, Riccio. Absolutely, man. We're about to get into that. SPY 666. You guys remember that level. We're back to it, right? So a big spot, no doubt. So here on the hourly on the ES, we can see that these highs right here come in around 67.90, which is a great spot. You can see that also lines up with the daily 20, and I think that is definitely a potential rejection spot to look for to start the day. I think that is very possible, and I would definitely be looking for that spot today, right here. So something I'll be looking for a fade at if we get that pop towards the 67.90, without a doubt. Something I'll be looking for. Anywhere between the 67.90 and 68.12. To start the day here, we can see that we are down into the major demand and we are down into the daily 50. And we're seeing a little bit of a 4-hour wick starting to form, and we can see that we're starting to see a little bit of a curl off that daily 50 here. So today, as we approach the morning, I'm going to be very cautious right here at this daily 50. I'm going to be careful of these little traps that are starting to be set down here, and I will be a little bit hands-off from the short unless I see something super nasty on a failure under the daily 50. That would really be the only spot I'd look for. But if I was to be honest, if that happens, I might have to accept that I miss it again, because that's just not the perfect trade for me. The perfect trade for me here on the short side is a pop and a fade, just like this pop and this fade, right? In a downside market, just like an upside market, right? In a downside market, it's the pop and fade at the previous lows. In an upside market, it's the drop, it's the retest, hold, right? Retest, hold. These are the entry points. These are the entry points, not here and not here, right? So I got to remember that. I can't chase the downside, as FOMO as it is, as aggressive as it may seem, and how, it definitely makes you want to get on the train. But, shorting into this demand in this daily 50 today just doesn't seem like it really gels with what I like to trade. And what I would like more is that pop, and then look to see where that weakness steps back in, right? That's really what I would like to look for. So something I'll be watching there on the ES today, okay? Let's go to the SPY. S&P 500, you guys should remember this level. We talked about this level for a long time. It was the devil's number, right? 666. Look at where the SPY has traded back to today. We are right back to 666. The level we talked about early October, and look at where we're trading at again. So that 666 right here, these highs, right? These major lows, these highs here, these lows here, and here we are today right at the 666 again. We can see here on the SPY ETF, we are right inside that zone between 666 and that 667 area. So does that hold today? That's going to be a big question. That's going to be something I definitely look for. Underneath 666, you do have the daily 50, which I'm going to put at 665, right? So I think anywhere between, I'm going to actually put this entire zone as a little bit of a demand for me, because I'm not sure I'm going to be looking to short into the daily 50 on the SPY ETF today before a pop, right? I would look for a short here after this and this, right? After I get an entry point up here at 674. So a little bit careful back into that daily 50, a little bit careful down into these lows, down into these highs, a little bit careful of shorting the market into that demand. Where would I want to see that short sort of set up? I think the short sets up back at the 674 level. That would really be the best short in my book right here. Between the 674 and 673, if we can get a retest rejection up there, if we can get a bounce and fade, a pop and fade at 673, 674, right there, give me a pop and reject the daily 20, right here, reject that daily 20, turn the daily 20 into a rejection point, bam, look for that fade back lower, right? That's the A-plus look. Does the market just want to puke again today? It's very possible, right? Technically, we already rejected that. So do we need to pop again into it and fade again? We shall see. That has been a nice rejection. The 674 and the daily 20 rejected yesterday very cleanly. You can see right here, perfect fail. Do we get it again? Or does this market just say, hey, I'm puking, right? I'm going down. So we'll see. But that's definitely something I'm watching today. Daily 50, daily 20, you're trapped right between them. I like the pop and fade look. If you want to look bullish today, if you are looking for that pullback long to still be a possibility, which it definitely will be at some point, right? Again, guys, we have to remember this is a weekly chart that's, been straight up. Downside is good for the market in general. there will be an area where this market does find that pullback long potential. The only way I would look for that today would be a reclaim above the 674 level. That would be the only way. Longing above 674, reclaiming the daily 20, that would put these shorts under pressure. That would really be the only look for me on the long side. So let's see if we get it, but, we'll see. That's all we can say is we'll see. QQQ. I think you still have room down here on the QQQ, so I think that is possibly why the market could continue to fall today. I don't, there is a little bit of discrepancy here. The QQQ, I think, could still get this low at 600. I think that's very possible. You are not yet back at these highs here. You are not back into these lows here. You are not back into this area where the QQQ upside originally started, right? You are still off of that by 8 points, 6 to 8 points, right? You still have a pretty decent area down here before you get back to that daily 50 on the QQQ, which is very possible. So that could be a very good target, right? Targeting this daily 50, targeting this 602, targeting that 600 demand before there is some type of a pop on this market. The ES would have to really hold strong at this daily 50 to maintain this market and get a pop before that QQQ drops lower into that low. I think this is possibly what you should be looking for today. Previous day lows could be a read right there. Previous day lows, which I'll always have on my charts. So that could be your very bearish read if you just reject PDL, which you have rejected here in the pre-market. You can see right here, previous day low, previous day low. That is definitely a potential read. Let's take a look at where the SPY previous day low is. So SPY previous day low is it's like right in this 669 area. So yeah, that's definitely going to be something that I have on my charts. I always have it on my charts, PDL. So we'll be watching that. But on the QQQ, yeah, looking at this 4 hour, it does look right to me that if you are failing these highs, which you are, 614, that you should navigate back to this 600. So that does look like a very real possibility today. I would be looking for that. Where would I want my entry point for that to be? Unfortunately, the best entry point for that, well, I guess not unfortunately, but the reality is the best entry point for that trade is a pop and fade back at 613, 614. That's really where you'd like to be short for that move into 600. Shorting it in the middle of this channel can be good, just a little bit aggressive, and you do need to, be aware of the potential pop against you as the ES gets into that daily 50, as the NASDAQ gets close to that 25,000, and as the SPY is sort of sitting at that 666. So you do have to be a little bit careful of that. But a pop and fade at that 614.50, I think, would be your A-plus entry point right here. Give me that pop, give me that fade, 613.50, bam, bam, trade me into that 600. That's what I would look for. So we'll see. We'll see if it pays. We'll see if it sets up. IWM, big spot here today. Major spot here today, actually, for the IWM. Underneath 237, 238, I think you could fail pretty quickly to that 235. Underneath 235, you're going to trade to that 231. So some big spots to be watching there in the IWM. If we go to the SMH, this is one of my top watches of the day. Semiconductors' continued weakness on the semis is something I will definitely be watching. We can see that there is some volume gaps below, and if you guys remember that daily gap, take a look at this. Remember this daily gap we talked about? That's still on my charts. We have not gotten to that yet. And is it possible we need that pullback? It's possible. Here on the SMH, if we look at this chart in a little bit more detail, if we break under under this low from the 4th, if we break that low, I would say you are going to trade right here into the 335. You will trade very quickly down under this level. I would say under this 345.22, I would expect very aggressive downside back to 335. If that starts to happen, I would say the market is going to continue with it. So that is something I am watching very closely today. Do we break this low right here? 345.22. Do we break that low? That is going to be my watch today. That is going to be a very important thing for me to be paying attention to, okay? So keep an eyes on that. 345.22. Gold is pretty much non-existent for me anymore. This has gone back into hibernation. It is so stuck inside this range. Could you get another retest rejection of these highs? Yeah, absolutely. But, man, is this thing just not been really that good of a trade anymore. So staying away from it. All right, let's get into some stocks. If you guys could, press that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We got 2,700 people here. 700 likes. Damn, people don't like me today. I apologize, man. I'm sorry. Press that like button. Okay. Tesla. So, once again, Tesla failing these major highs. That's another ugly rejection for Tesla. Under 440 is definitely a big watch for me today. This is probably one of my top watches. If we get some clarity of market downside and we see that devil in Tesla's eye and we get that nice retest rejection under 440, I think there's absolutely a reason to be looking for this downside today. Under 440, break and retest rejection. Do we get that? I would be looking for that today. We do need to be careful of 440 being a strong demand like it has been the last, few days. But under 440, I think you can get that downside move. So keeping eyes on that today. NVIDIA. You guys can see NVIDIA pretty much fell through this entire move higher, pretty much gave back this entire frothy upside move, which is very explainable, right? Definitely makes sense looking back at it here. Straight up move, 3 daily candles that were pretty much vertical, gave it all back, came right back down to this 185 demand. These highs, these highs, these highs, these highs, quadruple top highs. And there we are right back at it again. So that's going to be a spot to be paying attention to today, 185 and this daily 50. If you turn these highs and these highs into a failure point, I would assume there's more downside. But I would also be very cautious of that area, trapping some shorts, and possibly coming in for a little bit of a bounce. I think that is definitely a potential relief spot for NVIDIA, back down to this 185 spot. Now, of course, if the SMH is super weak today, then, it may not. It might need more. It might need back down to that daily 50, 183 area. So I'm going to be watching this 185. It's not my favorite semi to fade today. My favorite semi to look for fades today is going to be AMD. AMD, if we zoom out on the daily chart, we can see it is massively higher off of a lot of low volume gaps. You can see right here on AMD. I know it's been a great performing stock, but it has ran quite a bit. You have this massive gap still down here. You have this just a huge gap here on AMD to the downside still. You have this sort of uptrend that is at risk of breaking. And if we start to break that, which I think we already have here in the pre-market, I think you could see some navigation to the downside for sure. If I go to the 4-hour chart, you can see we are now failing back under this 4-hour major high at 244. See this right here? Major high, major high, major high. That's a triple top high. Look at what's happening. You're failing right under it. So that's really telling for me today. That's very clean. If we break underneath this double bottom low at 223.50 right here and right here, I would absolutely be looking for some downside down into this low at 203. This area right here looks opportunistic, and underneath 203 looks even more opportunistic right here. So some big spots to be looking for AMD. I really like this downside move if we can get that downside continuation today. It may not happen today, right? Today might be a little bit of a relief for the market. Maybe it just sort of sits sideways. But even looking forward into next week, I think you want to have your eyes on this move on AMD. Where is the level that we should pull back to, right? When we talk about our should pull back to these levels, this is where you should come back to, in my opinion, right here. These double top highs on AMD, the 187 level that you pretty much just had a rocket ship above on that news, does seem to be the level that you probably should pull back to at some point, right back here. So there is definitely some interest for me on AMD. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and this would pretty much be a must-watch on a daily basis. A must-watch on a daily basis. Moving forward. Okay? MU, unreal move. Really just did not even care about the downside yesterday, but you are starting to see some pressure come in here. MU, you can see right here, 4-hour chart. I'm going to go to actually the hourly chart right here and right here. 229, 232, these previous highs. This has to hold on this pullback. If this does not hold and you fail under this 229, I think you can look for that move back to 218 and back to that 210. So I would say for MU to stay strong here and defy odds, defy gravity, you need to hold 229. If you fail that, I think this could flip. So I will be watching MU today. Not interested in Broadcom today. It is fading 360, but it's too much of a channel here. Not interested in Qualcomm. Not really interested in TSM. Actually, let me take a look at TSM here. Yeah, maybe. Hold on. TSM definitely has some low volume here too. Okay. What is this? Take that off my charts. Let me hide this for a second. So TSM, yeah, definitely some demand down in here. 271, 277. You can see here, here, and here. I would say that's probably where this is headed. I really like the downside under 271 right here. If you fail that low, that's a nice structure break down into the 254. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, that's pretty nice. It looks like under this 286, you probably will get confirmation that there is downside coming in right here. And that looks like that's what's happening right now. So if you want to get aggressive on TSM today, look for 286 to reject. If you fail under 286 this daily high, then I would look for that downside into the demand lows. Underneath 271 is where it gets super spicy. Okay. That's really it for the semis for me. AMD is just going to be printed on my charts the entire day. This is really the main watch for me today. All right. Moving into some equities, some tech, major tech. Apple had a little run yesterday, but ultimately failed the 273 again. Still inside this channel. Definitely could start to see some downside come in off this supply high. For me, I need to see it fail under 264 right there. If you can break under that 264, I think that's game time. Amazon. I hope it doesn't go fully without me. Amazon, look at it inside this gap, guys. Really interesting here. Amazon, if I put on the volume profile, you're going to see pretty much a void of nothingness here. Take a look at this buck tooth right here. Here's your buck teeth right here. Your gap between your teeth. That's it right there, right? Look at that. So inside a low volume area right now, hopefully it doesn't open at 234, which it might, right? It might just sort of slip through this in the pre-market, but this is definitely another star of the day. I'm definitely eyeing Amazon downside under 242, 244, under this previous low right here, turning it into a rejection. This looks really good. You have a little bit of a potential demand at 239 to be careful of, but this is really the target, 234. So looking for this one very intently today. I like this a lot. Look at this. Very clear thesis. Google, definitely a major outperformer on their market, so just got to be a little bit careful of that. Any bounce on the market, Google bounces aggressively, so be cautious of that. Under 281, I would look for Google to fail right here. Under 281, I would see that probably fails into 277. Under 277, fails into 272. Yeah, CrowdStrike was sick yesterday, but I don't think it's going to hold up, man. I don't. Not if the market goes lower. That was a sort of a fluke upside move. It really was just the, I mean, maybe not, but on the daily chart, you can see we talked about that retest of 518 and the daily 20, and yesterday was just insane off that level. Actually, ridiculous. It was sort of ridiculous to watch. Market was pretty much tanking the entire day, and CrowdStrike pulled back to our retest level and just ripped the rest of the day. So pretty wild CrowdStrike move. Pretty much exactly what we were game planning for. But after seeing the market puking all day, I just couldn't take that. I couldn't do it. And you can see it's pretty much giving it all back, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it fully give it back. I would not fully trust this level. with the market conditions. If the market bounces, then maybe we look to trust it again. But I'm going to need a market bounce to trust a retest along there for sure. Let's go to Palantir. So Palantir got pretty much just smoked off these previous highs. You can see right here that 190 high just got smoked right off of it yesterday. 190, major rejection. Boom, right? Failure, failure. Pretty clean failure there. You're coming down into your 169, 172 demand. If you break under your 169, 172 demand, I would assume you would trade into the 163. Under this low right here at 169, I like the 5-point gap to 163. 6-point gap. I can't do math. 6-point gap right here from 169 to 163. I do like that area. The only thing I don't like about this area is you are looking at a daily 100 SMA right in the center of it. So a little bit careful there because of that daily 100. Aklo has been printing to the downside. Beautiful head and shoulder formation. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. This is textbook stuff on Aklo. We've been started talking about this for quite some time. I think Aklo is coming down to 85, guys. I really do. I don't think there's a reason this does not stop until 85. This is the previous high right here. You basically squeeze straight up above that and just sort of had this super froth move over, back to 85 looks like the right call. If I put on the volume profile, you're going to look at a pretty low volume area that you're going to start to trade within here, right? Look at this area right here. So between, under 108.50 back down to 85 is pretty much non-existent demand. So this is got to be a watch today, right? Look at this rejection of 108.50 this morning. The only demand level that I could see possibly holding this up, which I really don't expect it to, but it is possible, is this previous high right here at 98.60. If you break that, I'm saying you probably for sure going to the 100. If you break the 100, you're right back at your 85. I mean, this could happen today. Aklo could absolutely, 14%'s a lot, but I've seen it before. So let's see. 100 SMA, definitely a little bit of a trap there potentially. 98, a little bit of a trap potentially, right? A couple little bear traps there potentially if Aklo does bounce off the 100. The best short is at the 110 level for a retest rejection. There's no doubt about that. The target is definitely 85. As long as you stay under these lows, I have no reason to think that this doesn't go to 85. No reason to not think that this doesn't go to 85. As long as you stay under 110. You just need a good entry point, though. That's the problem. You need a good entry point. Hood. Yeah, Hood, zooming out, 4-hour chart, big retest level coming in here at 118. I would assume you're going to see that get tested. That's also the 100 SMA. For me, I'm just going to set an alert there. That's either a fail under the 100 SMA and this major high, or it's a bounce off of it. That's my spot. That's the spot that I'm watching. We might have to start looking at the shitters again, guys. You guys remember the shitters? What are the shitters? The shitters are Circle, CRWV, and FIG. That was our trio of shitters the last time this market went down. This one probably not so interesting. CRWV is interesting, and Circle's falling more than it was previously. You think this fall was bad? Look what's going on here, guys. This is getting pretty ugly on Circle. So, yeah, you might be looking at a IPO low on Circle. IPO low on Circle is 64. If you break, let me zoom in over here to the IPO lows. This is the IPO right here, right? If you break this low at 92.95, I have no reason to think that this is not, I would definitely think that this would go down from 92.95, 93 to 64. This is the first day of the IPO, which really doesn't print much demand for me, right? It's just one day of IPO craziness. So underneath this 93 area, there is possibly some really major moves here. And you see this low right here at 101.50. Take a look what 101.50 is doing this morning. Look at 101.50. Right there. Look at that. Bam. 101.50. rejecting. I think this has room to the 93 low, and if it breaks that, this could get pretty ugly. Really falling with aggressive downside moves. The best fade area is definitely back at the 108. That's definitely the best fade area. Anywhere between this 108 and 101, if we can see rejections in here, that would be money. But, yeah, I mean, if you zoom out, look at the 4-hour here. See this 101, 108 zone right here? See these double bottom lows right there? That's 101.50. You are rejecting these exact double bottom lows on Circle right now. Right there. That's pretty ugly. You break that 93, this could get pretty disgusting. So this might be something to watch, man. This might be something to watch. CRWV, also one that I would be watching for that continuation to the downside. You can see CRWV here failed to make a new high, right? Pretty weak move. You have a daily low right here at 100.8. If you break under 100.8, I think you're looking for these lows right here at 84, right? So watching that 100.8 on CRWV as well. Yeah, Meta's coming for the gap fill, it looks like. Meta has a gap fill at 611.30 on the weekly chart. That is seemingly what you're going to get right here. You see this high on this weekly. The close of the weekly is, the close on this weekly candle is 593, which maybe it wants to navigate to there. But the high of that weekly gap right here, see this weekly gap here to here, that's 611.30. So that's sort of interesting, right? That's probably where Meta's heading today. 611.30, it looks like you're pretty much there already. So let's see how Meta reacts to that weekly gap right there. If Meta rejects that 611.30, that could get sort of ugly. Meta's been under a lot of pressure. Okay. Bitcoin is definitely under pressure. You are coming down to test probably this uptrend. I want to say one thing about Bitcoin that's pretty clear here. So if you look at the Bitcoin chart, right, you have a structured high that turned into a low, right? Then you had a structured high here that was trying to turn into a low, right? So technically, Bitcoin has really failed an important structure. Like, you really needed Bitcoin to move higher, pull back. Like this pullback that's happening right now, you would have liked to see this pullback be above this high, right? Like something like this. Like, oh, shit, Bitcoin's dropping. It's dropping really fast. But it's dropping into this previous high, right? That's what you would be preferring here if you were, looking for upside. So the fact that Bitcoin did not hold this structure high here makes me think that you are probably trading back to this spot right here long term. I mean, unless this uptrend just really super strong uptrend just rockets this thing back higher, the structure high is now here. This is a low, and this is possible, right? For like a long-term, consolidation channel, and then maybe a new super lucrative long on Bitcoin back at 73, 75 area. This concerns me. It does, because before, when Bitcoin was in bullish structure, it was high, it was breakout, it was pullback, it was long, right? This is long. This is not holding this high. It's now rejecting this high. So this is it's a little off now, right? It's definitely on the weaker side to me. If you go to IBIT, you can see that very clearly as well, right? Look at this. Major structure high. Here's your high. Here's your pullback, right? Pullback into this high. Nice long. Beautiful long. Awesome opportunity. Now, look at what's happening. You are failing back under these weekly highs. That's cautionary for sure. That is cautionary for sure. It absolutely can bounce off the trend line. It absolutely can. But, I would just say be cautious of that. Don't get blinded by this trend line, because these previous highs failing is definitely important. But yes, the trend line could bounce. If it reclaims that high, then this is very strong. Just be aware of this high here at 61 on IBIT. That's a big one. That's a big one. Okay. So that's going to be about it, guys. RGTI was something I was watching. Rigetti, some of these sort of frothy upside moves need to be watched as this market starts to get a little bit weak. I think you want to be watching these. Rigetti is definitely one of those frothy upside moves. Yeah, I mean, I sort of like this, to be honest, to the downside. Under 34.40. See this high? Look at this failure. Next structure is at 828. Does have earnings, though. When are earnings? Next week? Yeah. So, a little cautious. All right. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ and ES real quick before we jump off. What are we doing? Are we holding the daily 50? Yeah, we are. So, the ES is putting that battle in right now, right? Here's your battle zone today, guys. Does the daily 50 hold tight today? That's what you got to watch. Okay? All right, guys. I hope you have a fantastic trading day. Good luck. Be looking for the bounce and fade. If this market wants to stay weak, that is the most lucrative trade in a downside weak market. It is the bounce and fade, fading the pops. Be careful of shorting into lows the same way you would be careful of longing into highs, right? So careful at this daily 50 today on the ES. Definitely some games being played here. It's probably not your best short. Yeah. Oh, we have to do the giveaway. Real quick, we got to do that. Hold on. Let me get that pulled up. Make sure to put your attendance in. I didn't forget about the giveaway. I'm going to not dox everyone today, so you're going to have to just trust me. I'm not going to dox everyone on their emails. Results. Trust me, I'm not rigging a merch giveaway. It's not interesting to me to be rigging that. Okay. Closing the eyes. Down. Up. And there. Benjamin Buckland. I know Ben. Uh-oh. I know Ben. I believe I do. Benjamin Buckland is the winner. Right here. Let me take a screenshot. Benjamin James Buckland. I think I know Benjamin. Pretty sure Ben's in the Discord. In the trading community. Pretty sure about that. Benjamin James Buckland. Congratulations, sir. I will send you an email with the link. Rigged. Rigged. It's rigged. All right. I'll send you an email, Ben. All right, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. I can't believe Margin won, right? That's great. Congrats, Margin, again on your winning. That was a... Oh, that's Buck, right? That's you, right, Buck? That's right. Hey, well deserved. Well deserved, man. Well deserved. Long time OG. There we go. Now you get to rep it. Love it. All right, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. Good luck out there today. And I will see you next week. Peace and love.